Conflict resolution, and of course ultimately you want to avoid stereotyping and discrimination in the workplace. Well, there's a new book out, Unequal Opportunity. It discusses many cases of women especially who have been who feel that they have been mistreated in the workplace and whatnot. Now, joining us to talk about this, as well as her extensive work on subject matters much like these, is the book's author, Dr. Leah Hollis. Dr. Hollis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell me about the book. I mean, Unequal Opportunity, it's been available for some time now. What's really behind it?
What's behind it is the record numbers of discrimination cases filed with the EEOC over the last 3 years. And actually, I started this project before those numbers were released. Several people have faced workplace discrimination. Some walk away from it, and others sue. So this is a guide to help managers and staff to understand what a complainant thinks and how to prevent workplace discrimination in their own organizations.
Absolutely. Now, you're someone who studied it, I mean, in and out of the workplace. Do you find that in recent years discrimination has at least gotten better, or employers? Because I know that managerial positions nowadays are almost as commonly women as they are men. You know, there's a lot of women going into positions of power. Do you find that discrimination has sort of gone down in recent years?
Discrimination has changed, meaning it used to seem like a black and white issue when these Title VII rules came out in the 60s. However, as baby boomers are aging through the workplace, age discrimination is 25%. You also have, as you say, a number of women entering the workforce, and officially the majority of the workforce. So discrimination cases really have an impact on everybody.
And I mean, much also of what you discuss in these works are things like leadership development, vision statement development, executive coaching. It all ties in because, you know, the more confident someone is going forward, I guess, can they kind of combat discrimination on their own? Yes,
and if a manager recognizes the rules and understands what can get them in trouble, for example, avoiding retaliation, avoiding adverse impact, avoiding disparate treatment, managers can then make conscious decisions that will help their organization avoid these kinds of cases, which can easily cost them to 6 figures very quickly to defend if you're sued.
Right. And I mean, you've spoken at length on all kinds of matters like race, gender, ethnicity, equality, success. I mean, like you say, the majority of discrimination cases nowadays are gender-based, not so much race-based anymore.
Actually, the majority are retaliation. That is, somebody complains about their civil rights. Whether the case is founded or not, the organization retaliates against them, demotion, transfer, and that is the #1 complaint facing the EEOC is retaliation.
That's unfortunate because, you know, in the workplace people should try and, you know, get along as best as they can, but you think it's a lot of managers who are, you know, demoting people based on some things like these?
Even some of the recent cases I've read here in New Jersey where somebody will complain about their civil rights, their complaint on racial discrimination might be unfounded, but the manager gives them a poor evaluation or transfers them. The retaliatory act is the one that's the easiest to avoid, but the one that most managers are engaging in. So that's what I'm finding is where the training needs to happen, how to avoid retaliation in your workplace.
Right. Many of these subjects are, you know, discussed in the book, as we've said. You've also got Patricia Berkly, LLC, which is something that you've started. Does that kind of focus on the same sort of thing?
Absolutely. We're a diversity training and consulting group, and we develop customized training for organizations to help them know the dynamic rules. Even this year alone, there have been 5 different Supreme Court rulings that have an impact on how managers are working with a diverse population. So our organization is about helping managers and engaging them in interesting training and providing the proper education to help them avoid being sued.
Right. Now, after so many years of doing this, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of success stories from people that have been helped by Patricia Berkly.
Sure, absolutely. Recently, and of course I don't want to give the names, where a VP had called me up and said, your book really helped us out. We were facing an age discrimination situation, but we were able to avoid the complaint, coach the manager, and also coach the other person who had a disconnect with their culture because she was a little bit older and had a number of younger managers who were supervising her. So it has been particularly helpful to managers.
That's great. Now, how can people get a copy of the book? I'm sure it's available in, you know, in paperback, of course, in local bookstores. Is that probably the best way?
The best way is through Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, and it's also in ebook format.
That's great. And what, I mean, through writing it, because it brought together so many cases, so many resolutions, etc., I mean, is there anything, I mean, you've been around these topics for so many years now. Is there anything additional that you learned from writing the book?
It is more pervasive than I even imagined. These are the stories that made the book. These are not the 2 or 3 other volumes of stories that I could write about, whether it's the person who participated in an investigation on their staff or somebody who wasn't hired. I'm a little disappointed that it happens on such a scale, and that's what surprised me the most, that it's a much bigger problem than many people realize.
And I mean, as far as your own immediate future, do you foresee yourself writing more books like these, or where do you think the road will take you?
I would be interested in following up on a book about class action cases. In particular, the Walmart situation got a lot of attention, and I've had a number of people approach me saying that they were part of a class. So I could imagine pursuing that as another topic down the road.
Great. And Dr. Hollis, by the way, is a Rutgers grad, for all those of you in the area who are a fellow Scarlet Knights. Now, I know that you've also worked a lot at Northeastern University and several other places. Do you still speak to college classes on matters like these?
Absolutely. What I'm finding is part of the leadership development part is if we are educating managers as they're rising up through their undergrad and their graduate program, they can be more sensitive as they're seeking those promotions and just be the managers that are safe to hire because they know the rules and how to protect their organizations.
Because to start with, people at a young age and really hammer home the right messages, that will help them if they have it ingrained with them earlier on.
Absolutely.
Great. All right, well, we wish you all the very best, and thank you so much for being our guest
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Dr. Leah Hollis, author of the new book, Unequal Opportunity. It's based on a lot of discrimination cases in the workplace and the like. Visit Amazon.com to pick up a copy, and of course, to learn more about Dr. Hollis, I'm sure you can see all about her both in the book and on the internet as well. I'm Mark Fontes. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Mercer County Close-Up. We'll see you again real soon.